Jin, of course, had the larger nerfs since 6.15, but still very much in the meta, and we saw a Zac ban in game 1 of the day. I'd love to see our first Zac on the Rift.
Well, I guess we'll find out soon, because IMay do have to give a little more time to make these choices here, but 2 picks to come. The 3rd seed Chinese team. Do they stick with a consistent carry for Jin Zhao? Do they mix it up for Avoidless really in the jungle? There's Jin locked in, and we are going to get it. Our first Zac of Worlds.
Oh, I love seeing a well-played Zac. There's a big difference between somebody who is just testing out the champion and who has played it in multiple scenario situations, coordinates with his team to really get the most out of that lead, because Zac, much like Evelynn, forces entire teams to change the way they think about ganks. Because you don't ward in the river versus Evelynn, because she knows she'll be invisible. You don't ward in the same spots versus Zac, because he'll just come flying over.
And just consider the jungle matchup. The power of Rek'Sai, apart from the global strong pathing, is the tremor sense. It's about being able to see people set up for a gank. Zac just charges that elastic slingshot. There is no visual indicator there for the tremor sense. So just in terms of compositional-wise, in a 1v1 in terms of these junglers, I feel like Zac can outthink, outfox a Rek'Sai, and there aren't many junglers that can do that.
Well, it seems like Flashlers are going to keep it very safe for these next 2 picks. Nah and Karma is locked in there, so flex potentially for Maple in that mid lane, but of course Sword Art can take it for a nice strong duo in the bottom lane as well.
Yeah, and it almost feels like this Karma is slotted in for support, because what it brings to the bot lane, guaranteed push, good shield, speeds up your entire team comp as a miniature Sivir in the mid game here. Super strong support, and she was actually the main reason Nami came back into the meta, because people needed an answer for that Karma in lane.
Well, we'll see what IMay go with their next few picks.
Now, the Varus would certainly be in the wheelhouse of Athena. Some people here might not know, but last year at the Casper Cup, on ESC Ever at the time, Athena became known for his teleport Varus plays, and just in general was a bit of a Varus one trick on the international scene when he played at IEM Cologne as well. Going with what he knows on the international scene once again, sticks with the Varus.
Yeah, and he's a good pick against some of these stronger, like, duelist mages that are in the mid lane, because he simply just outranges them. Yes, he will yield the pressure in certain scenarios where he can't contest the minion wave early, but he's always safe here. And they're building themselves quite interesting pull compositions. Varus Qs plus Jin Ws that can actually lock down targets for the follow-up that they can build here. Very complex to play, and obviously need to be careful. But if you can combine that siege poke, you know, with a flanking Echo, you can do a lot of damage.
Yep, they've got the decent follow-up there with Amazing J's top lane Echo. Lucian is locked in for the Flash Rolls though, and one more pick to come. It seems like it is a mid lane pick, so Karma kind of going where expected there in that support role, in a very strong duo lane with the Lucian and Karma, but Flash Rolls definitely taking their time with their final pick here, but they're out of time to pick, and it will be Vladimir to round out the team comp.
Kind of start worrying about the range discrepancy between these 2 teams. Both Jin and Varus heavily outrange anyone on the side of the Flash Rolls. Sure, they have the Gnar teleport engages, sure they have the Karma speed, but this is very much turning into team fight versus poke.
Yeah, and it will that will mean that Flash Rolls have to be ultra decisive in their approach. Go means go, which means Vladimir has to flash Ghost into the backline. Follow up by Rek'Sai aggressive going in, and hopefully having the teleport come in from MMD and flanking with that Gnar bar filled up here. But actually, this is a really big surprise here. The fact that Roadblocks in Alistar. You saw Mata do it in the matchup he should have lost, and this is actually very tough for them to win.
In my opinion anyway, is to counter gank, because his lanes have really good poke, and they'll be able to do a lot of damage by themselves.
Yeah, and my impression of this is, I don't like the draft from IMay. It seems really off in terms of cohesion, unless it's going to be an AP Echo top, and then that's just really strange, but it may work out later. It's just a lot of physical damage, a lot of pressure, and against something like a Vladimir, you're on a timer as a poke composition to make your moves, because this Vladimir is going to turn online. You have to actually have multiple resistances, and I feel like Sword Art also, like just banking, like talking about Flash Rolls for a second, it's like Ignite on Karma is really strange for me. Like, this is not something that you should be doing on a support against something that's not going to be restoring too much HP. Like, maybe the Zac, that's it. I understand Thunder Cow for Road with the Ignite to like go up against the Vladimir, but you really want an Exhaust. You want something that stops like one of these AD carries from getting away, and that you can shred them and stop their damage output, but they're just trying to go for a Bloodbath bottom.
We'll have to see if it heads out as we load up into Summoner's Rift. We're also tracking the fan discussion on Twitter. We're inviting you guys to connect with us and share your questions using the hashtag AskTheCasters. We'll answer some of those live on the air, so go ahead and ask away as the action gets underway.
So we do have to look towards how they're going to start off these jungle paths, and usually it'll be on the top side of the map. Avoidless is a very predictable jungler. 75% of the time he starts at the Krugs with Amazing J. So you will see him start here, but we have to see how many camps he does if he skips a camp, and if he goes towards bottom to get Scuttle Crab control with his team, or if they forego that fact to let Road actually be the one being forward and aggressive so that Zac can look towards that middle lane.
And most junglers are on this patch are going to start on that top side of the map, the opposite of their bottom lane. So their bottom lane has at least a chance of doing a camp and actually picking it up. The augmentations that we will see are most likely for red side, where your jungler will start on your blue buff on the bottom side of the map, as opposed to the Gromp, right? Maybe get a little bit of a leash and then actually just go through the jungle that way. I don't think it works as well for the blue side, because then you have your red buff, and your red buff is ticking, and it's your gank tool for a lot of these junglers that don't have too much CC. So it's kind of one of those things where, man, I really want to do my blue buff first, so that when I get my red buff, I'm level 3 and I can have all this time to gank people and slow them, whereas if you start on it, it's not as good.
Definitely can be difficult in those early stages. Karza, of course, will be taking his red buff towards the bottom side now, still on level 2, matching what Avoidless is doing on the map right now. And we will keep an eye, as you said, Rusty, on where Avoidless does decide to path. He goes down towards his wolf camp, so he looks like he's going for a full clear here. What does this make where does this make the difference now for IMay?
Yeah, so Avoidless making a full clear means that he won't be there as early to get ganks off. It may not be as efficient for his red buff, but I want to highlight what Karsa's done is he saved his smite for that red buff. Would have been really good to stay full health if he found Avoidless, but he really wanted to pressure
Blue buff, so you actually saved a little bit of time as Rek'Sai in your route. You get the full invade here. Zac isn't actually going to contest this at all, but he's going to go to the other side, yeah.
Yeah, which really just means bottom lane control and a bit of tempo potentially. Karsa doesn't necessarily need that blue buff, so they could look towards giving it to Karma.
Yeah, but this is super good, though, because you can see that Maple already shoved up the mid lane. He's going to try to disrupt the Avoidless and walk down here. They know that he's here, place a ward over. And now here comes Gnar, so Avoidless doesn't have enough damage to actually finish it in time, so he's going to get the pride. Oh, he turned around. Oh, he's probably going to get popped here. He already used his E.
Oh, wow.
He's got 3 seconds on it.
Yeah, they flash right on him, and he gets popped into little
Teleport.
globules.
You can teleport to them to save him, so he should live here, but it forces a lot of summoners.
That's a little bit early.
They canceled.
Yeah, no, that's the thing, is that's an early teleport. Your duration of teleport is, was it 4.5 seconds right now? I believe the blobs take a little bit longer than that to actually reform.
Okay, so right now this looks really, really bad for Avoidless. I mean, how far back does this set him? Not being able to get the blue buff, giving up first blood, etc.
I think it actually hurts simply because he's going to be behind in experience above all else, and what Zac wants the most is going to be experience. So yes, it really does put him into a poor position. This is also really well executed from Flash Wolves and Telegraph to do exactly this, to ensure that he's going to be behind. And it all starts from, firstly, having a smite advantage for Karsa, and then having a pushing bottom lane that'll be able to collapse with him. And as far as team play is concerned, this is very elegantly executed from the get-go.
He also lost his flash in that too, so it's flash burrow, unburrow knockup is very important for Rek'Sai, and he just was able to clear the jungle and have no problem with it.
Also, for the record, why he turned around to try and get a small blue buff minion, I believe, was to get the next level, which he didn't get. It was stolen by MMD.
I think he was still level 3 though.
All right. Well, since we're still in this situation, 5 minutes.
I mean,
into
we
this
could
game,
get a replay of it, right?
Yeah. Well, we can. We can definitely do that one. I want to ask you guys a Twitter question though, since it's just come up.
Okay.
Mladen's R63 asks, "What am I doing as a Zac against Rek'Sai early? Do I farm and just trying to avoid him? Is this Avoidless' Twitter?"
He's trying to get those strats.
Well, it has been quite Avoidless early.
Yeah, this always comes down to personal preference. Against a Rek'Sai's clear time and Zac's clear time are kind of different. Like, Zac will be a little bit slower early. Later on, though, Zac is fine. But early game, I feel like you go for actually just clearing your jungle and looking for mid lane ganks, because ganking from Raptors, like right now, you see how far up Vladimir is. If you're maxing E, he's got 3 points into it, and even right here in the bottom lane, like, you could reach that lane. You just look for ganks. Your gank routes are actually really good into these lanes. And that's what you have to do as Zac, is just look for those opportunities. And I feel like you can outpace a Rek'Sai in your ganking. Yeah. Can't really match him too much in the farming.
You scale better for those ganks, especially at the level 6 point. What Rek'Sai gets is the ability to go across the map and help certain areas. It might increase the speed with which the Rek'Sai clears, but Zac's best case scenario is to get 5 or 6 and find a unique gank path that Karsa's not going to be prepared for, so that he cannot counter gank. Your goal as Zac is usually just to not have what happen to you through having winning lanes generally, so that you can hit the level point. But IMay didn't actually sculpt themselves a composition to do this. They're looking to scale, and so Avoidless gets the raw end of this deal and just has to get what he's given.
Yeah, and I'll actually tell Zach players out there that if you're against a Rek'Sai, do not be afraid to invade on them, because Rek'Sai's opener is their CC. So if a Rek'Sai is walking around in the jungle, right, he's gonna burrow down, and then as soon as he sees you, he's gonna unburrow and knock you up. Well, he's got nothing left in his kit, then you can just E away. Never E when you see him approaching you, because he can flash, knock up, interrupt it. So just walk away. If he does try to flash knock up you or walk up and knock up you, then that's his CC and it's gone, and then you can just E away. So I definitely recommend invading when you can, getting their Raptor camp and making sure that you can stay in the same kind of league as them and stay at the same level.
And just for reference, it's a 10-second cooldown on the knock-up from the unburrow, so that's a lot of time to make things happen.
Yeah, it goes down every rank you put into it, and pros were maxing the W second, so it went down to about, I think it's 8 seconds, by 0.5 per rank, something along those lines. But then the E got a nerf so that the cooldown on that is so high early on, it eventually goes down, but I want to see what they end up doing, because LPL was already maxing E second, just because it's more damage, but Western teams were maxing the W second on Rek'Sai.
So stylistic differences aside too, Karza's obviously gotten a little extra damage that he's going to be able to put out in that time that he's going to be knocking people up and bopping them around with the Tiamat. Is that something you guys always see on early on before even finishing the jungle item? Just go for the half Titanic Hydra?
Absolutely. You go for the Tiamat because it's so cheap now, and it gives you that AoE clear, and that's what gives you your extra pace in the jungle to keep up and just go very, very fast through your own jungle to get into the enemy jungle.
He wants to go on Karsa here as well, and remember that he's got the Jhin and a Varus that can collapse with high range, so when IMay does actually collapse, they're able to push them off.
That was really good by Avoidless. He used the E to just jump up onto Karsa, and as soon as Karsa used used the E, you saw Avoidless use his second CC in his kit to interrupt the tunnel, which forced Karsa to flash. So he got the flash out of the Rek'Sai, and that's a win in my book.
So far, so good. All the same, he's still finding himself down. He's kept up in jungle farm at least, so he has been able to do that, but you can see he hasn't really been able to get off any ganks in particular for himself. Where, Rusty, do you think he should really be going right now, Avoidless? Is hanging down bot the best interest?
He just needs to try and find places in the jungle, and it's a little bit different to how it first started, but it's going to be more so Avoidless' style. Stop Karsa from getting advantages by invading, but just take the camps. Don't always fight him unless your team's able to work. It's not the best lane mid, it's not the best lane bottom for pressure, especially because it's an Alistar Jhin. Very reliant on actually getting that Zac down there. So if you're going to pick a lane that he'd go towards, it does need to be bottom. However, Karsa's always there. And so his best case scenario at the moment is to look bottom but not actually gank it unless he knows where Karsa is, which is where vision is actually the most important part. Even if Karsa is clearing it, they know exactly where he is and they can react accordingly. As an example, Avoidless now walking bottom even though there's only the wolves to take because he's assuming someone's going to be here.
I wonder what he's going for as well. He might be going for like Spirit Visage right off the bat. It seems a little strange to actually just have that Kindle Gem. There's good ward there as well. Against a Zac and a Rek'Sai, you have to ward that area right there if you're pushing up, as if you're Flash Wolves. That right there is where Rek'Sais will tunnel over or where Zacs will actually use their Elastic Slingshot from. So if you are blue side, ward there if you're against one of those two champions.
Flash Wolves planned it out, textbook style, and this is why they have themselves a little lead in 10 minutes into this game right now. It really has been all about the bottom since the early jungle pathing, and Karza, he just seems to be everywhere in all honesty. I mean, is this something that's just enabled because he's Rexar, or is this just a Karza thing? Because I know he always likes to force going into the jungle.
I feel like it's a snowball effect of how the early went. So he does have a Tiamat, means he will be a lot quicker. He also has the trackers for ward clearing and Sword Art in a pretty rough position here.
This is really good timing from Avoidless as well. They're going to get that kill.
Nice.
No problem at all.
First blood for Jin Zhao.
You can see the range there. Like, I feel like the last time we really saw a competitive Zac be popular, he actually had a lower range on his Elastic Slingshot. That thing gets up so far, you can do gank routes that no other jungler can do in the entire game.
It increases to about 3,200 range roughly, and the beauty of what actually happened there is the Scuttle Crab doesn't reveal everything anymore, so you can hover the edge where, yeah, it just died, so I think, unfortunately. But you could stay near the edge of it and stay outside the range, and he walk in with no ability to actually spot avoid this at all. And a free gank because he walked the long way.
Let's see if Karza's able to.
Karza's going to try to get in there.
Here. Yeah, he's always going to try. He goes in, tunnels. Oh, and denied by Road. That's an Alistar thing.
Oh, man.
And that was going in, though.
Yeah.
Might have to pay for this.
Gonna try to get out.
Does have his passive, though. Unfortunately, it doesn't mean much.
I mean, everybody's there.
Yep.
All right, so NL does pick up a kill. I mean, it's traded for a Mountain Drake, not the worst thing in the world, but Jinjiao might be in trouble. Everybody's gunning for him here, and he is completely isolated. Okay, 2 kills.
Feels bad, man.
Oh, Sword Art stole it.
Feels real bad.
Wow.
That's one of the worst case scenarios for the AD carry.
Oh, yeah.
His whole team dies around him, nowhere to go, so he was close to recalling. Give him props for trying.
Yeah. And now they're just going to push down bottom. Karsa's going to back and try to stop maybe mid, maybe top. Because right now you have to stop those 2 lanes from pushing, get your bot lane first turret gold. And then that's the plans. Yeah, you can see he goes to the top side of the map just to make sure that this doesn't end up being a turret kill. He doesn't even care about Amazing J. He's like, let me just clear this minion wave. Oh, TP down to the bottom side. Immediately says that's really good for Amazing J. He's going to actually maybe pick up a kill here on the bottom side of the map. That'd be cool.
Yeah, looking like they were going to chase this one through.
Everybody's screaming. What's going on?
There we go. Now we're down to the bot. MMD is just stuck in the wall. Ow. They couldn't finish the job, though.
Nope.
Big Nara was there, so is what it is. And IMay still haven't been able to find more than the single kill. But let's go back on Twitter and ask another question, because we did see Avoidless not being able to completely avoid getting pressured out in the early game. From Millist on Twitter, I'm going to totally butcher the pronunciation. What scenarios and factors determine a jungler's opening path?
If your bottom lane wants a camp or not. If they do, you start on the top side. What side of the map you are, if you're blue side, typically you will start top side just because your blue buff is there and you want to have the longer duration on your red for when you hit 3 minutes and have ganking routes. If you are red side of the map, which is the top side, starting on the bottom side isn't that bad if you're somebody like Olaf, because you want blue buff for constant axes for your jungle clear. So you can start on your blue buff there, your bottom lane can take a camp, you probably won't get a leash, but your route will be one of the ones where you can get your blue buff, go through your clear, and get to your red side. So I think it's your bottom lane if they want to do it, and also who you plan to gank first is very important as well.
So the scenarios where your path changes is if you're looking to gank sooner, something before expectations, you can get bottom with most of the jungle clear at 245. You can even speed that up if you want to accelerate and go from red buff start towards the bottom side of the map. And really it comes down to how early you think you should be ganking, and that's a champion choice thing, where you should be ganking and how you should be doing it.
Yeah, and for example, like you said champion in there, Rek'Sai kind of has 2 starting routes. First one is Gromp into run all the way across the map, go to Raptors, then red, or red to Raptors, and then gank mid. And that's one of the routes. The other one is you are on the other side and you go Krugs into red, into Raptors, and gank mid. So you clear one side of your jungle and then go for a gank immediately for the... It's honestly like, because Rek'Sai's clear time, it's like 2 minute and 55-second gank. It's really fast.
Yeah, that's the one we ended up seeing in this game too. I mean, Kars is, he's been pretty much all over this map right now, and it has been a little rough for Avoidless, trying to even get some of his own farm back. And he did seem to try to match that early on. Do you think it was a little suboptimal for him to really be hanging around in that blue jungle when he was pushed back and ended up giving up first blood?
Avoidless?
Yeah.
I feel like he was doing the right play, but his lanes just weren't pushing. And that's a communication thing. And we talked about IMay's communication. You saw that Maple was pushing up because Karsa is like, hey, he's going to go invade the jungle. MMD was like, okay, I'll sack some farm and I'll just go and stop the blue buff. But Avoidless, it looked like he didn't have the same idea as the rest of his laners. Amazing J probably could have showed up if he decided to push the wave as Echo. And Athena, same story. So I think the jungler was right. I think his lanes were wrong. to put it frankly.
It's a very jungle-based perspective.
Oh,
It's almost like you play this role.
So that's actually a very interesting thing, because the meta, I believe, is shifting, where it used to be your jungler helps your laners. Now it's your laners help your jungler.
Yeah.
It's the opposite now. It's all about pressuring lanes at the right time, pushing up, and making sure that your jungler can invade so you can back him up. It's a team effort. It always has been. But instead of being a resource for your team, you are actually somebody who requires resources, requires your laners time, but you end up getting more resources for your team because of it.
You'll notice in competitive play, the team that collapses the first or the most effective is usually the team winning the game.
And
it's a correlation.
Yeah, and those collapses that you're talking about usually aren't something that happens on the spot. Sometimes it's reactive, but most of the collapses will be, hey, I want to go do this, I want to go invade his red, then top lane and mid lane immediately start shoving in, hard shoving, so that the enemy mid laner and top laner, they have to choose between farming that wave and getting guaranteed gold for themselves, or going for the counter play.
Speaking of guaranteed gold, Amazing J, he does get out of this. but he was really, really close. He was holding on to his ultimate. I guess he was going to be able to come back and do this. And you can see IMay are really trying to get heavy around the map. I mean, what does Avoidless need to be doing right now? Because he seems to be trying to catch up in farm.
So they were pressuring towards the Drake. If they got the kill, it would have been a free Drake just because of all the vision that Caster and Sword Art would have placed down. However, they don't get the kill, and the Echo still has the utility of his ult or teleport to be there, which means the scenario for Avoidless now is actually to start contesting and placing that vision down, work with his support in tandem as a 2v2, and try and actually just control at least their jungle area, so that if it's a Drake they want to contest, they can fight for it. The alternative is to invade or push the other side, but because it's Rift Herald at 17 minutes, there's no value in doing so.
Yeah, and you talked about how he had held his teleport and his ultimate. It's like really good presence of mind from Amazing J to not flash either and use these things, because the Ocean Drake is about to come up, and the reason Flash Wolves didn't actually continue to push forward, because you think, oh, NL could have maybe flashed forward and finished that kill off, it's because they saw the rest of IMay in the river. They saw the rest of IMay. If he flashes forward and uses an ability to actually try and close that gap, well, you might die as this Lucian, and Lucian's a very big part of how you end up picking up that Drake.
Definitely going to be setting up as much vision as they can to try and pick this one off. But we've kind of settled a little bit into, you know, the team's kind of hovering around, and the vision game is super, super important here. Karza seems to be pretty on top of clearing it out, though.
How much gold is he sitting on? He's sitting on a lot of gold, right? No, only 900.
He's in the lead right now, and Flash Wolves definitely have the onus to try and start this one off.
Oh, he probably finished boots, and I didn't check in between that time. So yeah, he got his Ninja Tabi.
There we go.
Yeah, look, an Ocean Drake isn't really one that you need to go out of your way to contest. I think IMay's initial strategy was that we have the Alistar poke composition. We can try and control vision, then poke the area. But there's definitely always going to be all-in options available.
And now you can see they're just hanging out on this pink ward here. Avoidless up, spotted. Yep.
Set to bounce away.
Yeah, Rek'Sai is like by concept broken as a jungler. Like 100%. Like I was talking about yesterday how I was a playtester for Rek'Sai, and like just by what she does, virtue of what she does as a jungler, is everything that a jungler would want. In a gap closer, you have a way to count to make sure that there aren't people around, and you have CC in your kit. And she has unique gank paths. If she counter jungles, she can see in a 1600 radius when somebody is around before she even checks it. Like, she could be walking towards the blue and sees movement, and it's like, oh, well, guess I'm not going to go over there. I'm going to avoid him and go do his Raptors or something. It's by concept, Rek'Sai is broken, or if her base stats are too low and she can't survive, then she's awful.
So we talked, especially last week when we were all preparing for these matches, like the jungle pool was kind of going to be felt out for a little while with so much that actually had changed. Rek'Sai is one of those things that one of those few things that didn't change. As the junglers get a little bit more comfortable, these two are just making their debut Worlds this year. Do we start seeing maybe more Rek'Sai bans being thrown around as a general thing, if it's just that strong of a champion, or do you think it's player specific?
Sorry, who's making their debut?
Well, debut this World specifically, his first game.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Excuse me.
It's like, what?
I think Rek'Sai has been pretty hotly contested already and should continue to do so. Again, for all of the mentions that Zyrene, all of the reasons.
I had a lot of mentions.
There's a lot of mentions.
Man, words are hard. Like, my sentence structure sometimes goes out the window. It's absolutely awful. Sometimes I listen to myself back. I'm like, man, form a sentence, man. Come on.
Yeah, Rek'Sai, I'm surprised was honestly even available in this game to be seen, given all of the other jungle
Well,
games.
it went so early in the rotation as well.
Oh, yeah. You're going to first pick it. Like, jungler first pick is very common right now, unless there's like a Cassiopeia ban and you pick up Syndra. I think those will be two of the most popular strategies we see. Elise, Rek'Sai, and Syndra first picks.
So given all of that, I mean, Rusty, put yourself in Avoidless' shoes right now. Like, what do you need to be doing to like kind of get your team back in ahead? We know Flash Wolves have this later on. That's like their style. They're ahead already. What can he do?
See, I agree that Flash Wolves as a team usually have the late game. They're a really good team fighting team as well. I don't know if they have late game for different circumstances, and what Avoidless has been doing, we just highlighted him sitting in a bush on a pink ward. It's pretty much all he has to do. Because once again, we look at the team composition, how he's going to play these things out. He's making a decision based off his positioning that he's just trying to keep his laners alive, peel for them, and disrupt the tanks and front lines. Of Flash Wolves, it is a Rek'Sai, Vladimir, and a Gnar. That is a lot of frontline that is going to be running at your team. And he's saying that it is far more valuable to win the game that he is peeling, opposed to being in their frontline disrupting them.
Well, alrighty then. So making a very specific decision to do this, but for Karza, he just keeps on getting this invade and keeps on clearing the vision away, and seems to be working out well for them right now. Another question from Twitter, wanted to ask, at Joel's N97, what is the most efficient and sneaky ways that or tunnels that Rek'Sai can place to ult on and support her lanes?
So one of the things that I think Rek'Sai's should do that it will definitely up your Rek'Sai game is look at some ways of optimization. So you should be going through your jungle and actually setting these up where Krugs, middle of Krug pit into your red buff. Then from your red buff wall into your rafters over to the left, or if I guess your red side to the right, and go over like that wall over there towards your mid, and just optimize your route, because those seconds that you save actually help you so much. And like even your your wolves over towards your blue buff over towards the wall, and Gromp over towards, you actually see he has one right now on Karsa's side, his Gromp towards the river. Right? Because if you're running from the river, then that's a way to actually get back in. And I feel like that's what you need to do, is set up the tunnels on your side of the map to increase your clear speed and your optimization, as opposed to putting them really far in. And in terms of sneaky tunnels, I feel like there aren't, like, it was actually specifically designed that you can't put a tunnel inside of a bush completely unless it's the bottom lane bush. But there are so many people in there, so you can't have a tunnel start and end in a bush. There's only one bush in the game.
Flash is being burned, and here we go. Avoidless is going to pop in onto MMD. There's no Gnar bar there. He should be going down, and Avoidless actually gets some gold back in his pocket. I want to touch on what you said, though, about sneakiness and how you can't really pull it off with Rek'Sai. If that's the case, how do you like protect your tunnels? Is it like a pink board thing where you're just constantly trying to push back?
Yeah, tunnels are fantastic because it also gives away where the opponents are. If you start seeing them like shake a bit, and he's going to go over. He doesn't have another tunnel, so he has to flash.
Zach's in range, though.
There we go.
He's not in range.
Zach is always in range.
That was a pixel. Hold on, Avoidless might go down. Oh, that was a nice flash, and Maple is going to have to pull away.
Single man ulti there, so yeah.
Ouch.
Wow. Yeah, this is actually a solid turnaround from IMay across the board. The Zach actually killing MMD on the top side of the map translates to this happening. There was a lot of greed.
Yeah.
And
MMD,
speaking of greed, Avoidless has like 200 health to his name.
well, if they keep going, MMD's going to TP. Yeah, there they
He
go.
goes, wow.
So yeah, Avoidless is dead. MMD's TPing on the backside. He's actually in combat with the Echo.
Okay.
Yeah, not going to be able to chase down.
That was interesting slingshot.
I actually think Cloud Drake probably goes the way of Flash Wolves because Karsa comes back up and goes to a tunnel.
Avoidless just killed himself by following the elastic slingshot.
I don't know, Rusty. I don't know if I've ever seen Batman do that.
I mean, I'd look at his decision making and I'd say that even he knows he made a mistake. I think everybody knows that he made a mistake.
Yeah.
So
200 health.
it was a 7 for the dive, but the landing could use some work.
Yeah. Oh, also, I just wanted to close out the Rek'Sai tunnel point. The safest tunnels are the ones that you always put on your side of the map, right? Because the enemy has to invade to actually get rid of them. So you will almost guarantee, unless you're losing the game and they're pushing in and have like all your outer turrets and stuff, that you will at least have a tunnel on both sides of the map to use your ultimate on. Like right now, you could see Karsa's tunnels set up on the mini map. Like very, very easy for him to find a way to get to Dragon, to get to Baron. Like you'd have to invade pretty deeply. And even has some in mid lane right there that if you start clearing them all out, well, you have to get to that tier 2 turret to actually get rid of it. So there are a lot of tunnels that he's placed so far, but they have to be on your side of the map, and that's the safest. I don't know about sneaky, but I feel like safe tunnels are the best way to go.
And I will say, while we were watching that replay, up until he did decide to throw himself willingly at the enemy, it was well played by him to ensure that whilst he wasn't in range of the elastic slingshot, he still kept them there and flashed at the last second to ensure that he stayed alive. So good presence of mind from Avoidless for about half of that.
And then it goes out the window. The adrenaline pumps in. That's what it is. Okay, so Athena, I was like, he has a Caulfield's Warhammer. What is he doing? Death's Dance. It's actually a pretty damn good item. It does actually take a penalty on AoE effects, so I believe that his Piercing Arrow doesn't actually give him the same amount of HP back from it. So it's mostly a CDR build here. It's just another thing instead of like Black Cleaver to build. But I do actually think that Black Cleaver may have been better for him because if you look at the composition from Flash Wolves, and you look at the composition from IMay. IMay is all this physical damage up in here. Like I feel like you need a Black Cleaver on somebody, and Jin's sure as hell not going to build that.
Well, you can always question the decision making in the item builds and elsewise. And Rusty, let's move it back into Avoidless. Like, what do you think he's going to build from this? Like, obviously, he should continue to go tank. Does he need to stack up a lot more armor than he has?
You look towards Warden's Mail, perhaps, and go towards like a Randuin's Omen. He's a very valuable champion when it comes to having health. And I think that's his decision, because he had a Chain Vest and decided that he wanted a Health Crystal and a Cloth Armor, which speaks to me more so either Dead Man's Plate or something along those lines.
Yeah, it's like Sunfire Cape, Dead Man's Plate, involves those 2 items. And maybe he does still go for the Warden's Mail. I feel like that's your better option here, but nobody's really going to have crit on that enemy team, so you might just stack armor.
Lucian won't have the max crit build, but he'll definitely still have some crit with his third or fifth items in there, so there is a bit of value. But the reason that I say Randuin's Omen for Zac is more so because of the slow that it provides, and even if you're out of range, it locks people down.
Oh man, Carson
going to lock down.
I actually want to see how that happened at the start. So
wow, they are going hard.
Like, how are you catching that Rek'Sai in the middle of the lane? Because I think he ulties back and then just kind of dies in the middle of the lane. Like, that shouldn't be happening as Rek'Sai. He got caught off guard, and even if you look, like, there aren't any flashes from Road burned here. Maybe Amazing J flashed and got a stun on him. I'd be interested to see that again, because as a Rek'Sai, you shouldn't be getting caught like that, especially with the flash up, which I think he still had.
Yeah, you'd be looking at the long-range lockdown once again of IMay's team composition. Zac not even having that big of a part in it doesn't matter too much.
Let's see this.
Here's your replay.
Probably rooted by Athena, and then just completely... Oh, he walked way too far. Yeah.
He wanted farm.
Yeah, that was super greedy. Like, 100% Karsa was getting greedy there. Oof.
Talk about brute force junglers, man. Sometimes you want to feed it. On the flip side of the item build thing, when does he finish the Titanic Hydra, out of curiosity?
When you feel like you have enough armor against this composition.
Yeah, no,
That's a good answer.
Legitimately the answer, because the Tiamat's all you need. It has the wave clear, it has the AoE, and that powers your acceleration through farming minions and camps, and even wave minions, as he likes to farm a bit of those. The reason you go Titanic Hydra, it only gives health and a bit of extra damage, is for that health and extra damage, where Randuin's is a better option. Spirit Visage, if you're looking for health sustain and magic resistance, is also a better option. So he may go Spectre's Cowl into Titanic Hydra. He may just go Titanic Hydra. Now, I think it's dependent on how much he thinks he needs to do in the way of damage.
I don't even think you get a Spectre's Cowl in this game. I feel like you go for like GA Thornmail, or maybe even like a Dead Man's Plate, right? I would have actually no... I know it's percent HP from Zac, but I would actually run no MR in this game and just rely on maybe Karma to eventually build a locket for me. I mean, that's just me, though.
Yeah, I'd have a Banshee.
Everybody's got a preference.
A Banshee, not a Spirit Visage?
No, the way I see this is right is that Jhin or Varus might lock you down. There's a long-range engage from Zac, but it's all committal engage, so I'd probably go a Banshee's Veil to deny at least part of that. Force them to engage on somebody else, and remember, he is still a damage dealer, albeit a tanky one.
Ooh, It'll wants to hit in on the road here. Okay, goes down the Unbreakable Will. That's going to be the end of that one. We might have action in a minute, but I want to actually get your guys' opinions, because you mentioned this earlier. We have another question from Twitter. Underground42 is asking, what's changed that made laners have to support the junglers now?
It's a mindset switch, but also standard lanes all the time is very, very much about helping your jungler, because in lane swaps, turrets went down, and then the jungler was like, okay, where are these long lanes that I can gank? And in standard lanes, pressure is important. That's why we're seeing things like Lucian come back up and be very, very popular. Syndra, which is a lane bully and just pushes you in. When you have a Syndra on your team, Syndra will always help you get in. And the reason that this is important is it's one of the advantages that people found is rather easy to take when you have a snowballing team. If you have somebody lane that's going to shove, super easy to go into the enemy jungle and get an advantage there. If you don't do that, you're actually squandering what you picked.
Yeah.
That's my opinion on it.
I think because it was lane swaps before, top laners were always moving around with their junglers. They were quite well protected. Supports were pre-placing vision as well in areas that they wanted to go towards. So there was no onus on actually protecting your jungler. He had free reign of the jungle, and his job was to actually just help those lanes. Whereas when you are in a standard lane scenario, there is a lot less vision available that you place down at the start of the map. There is a lot less information that you actually have as a jungler, and there's a higher probability that you are able to invade your opponent and actually take it to them, because there's predictable windows on camps you're clearing.
Yeah, and the jungle meta did swap and transition a little bit, because if you think back a couple years, the jungle meta was always, do they have a way to CC somebody and gap close and get over walls? Because if you have gap close and you get over walls, you can invade counter jungle, and then you can get away. And if you have a way to actually CC people, like even think back to like Aatrox when he was in the jungle, right? He fit all the criteria. Rek'Sai fits the criteria. Jarvan fit the criteria. Xin Zhao didn't because he couldn't get over walls, right? It's stuff like that that was very important, and now it's not as important. Now you need a gap closer. Getting over walls is nice, but Ghost will actually help you run around, so Olaf is important. But then the biggest thing right now is your clear time. If you have a clear time that is subpar, you cannot jungle despite having everything else in your kit. So it's all about that clear time right now. So people are clearing their own jungle, and then what are you going to do with these junglers that are like Graves and Nidalee? Their gank assistance isn't very good. They don't have CC to actually lock down a lane like old junglers did. So what you have to do is go invade. You have to go into the enemy jungle. You have to make sure that you can get control of their jungle if they haven't been farming it as fast as you. And that's where you get your advantage. And you get small gold leads, but it's like 100 each time. And you do it 4 times, you're up a kill.
So there's something I actually just found out I want to point out as well. Item efficiency, when you look at Caster's build right now, he has a health crystal. Everyone's doing a Baron dance at the moment, which means he doesn't actually have a pink ward slot available. And this is my biggest challenge towards him. The Zac has a pink ward that he just placed down. They're able to sit defensively on that vision and hold an area more effectively, and it means that they don't have full coverage on the side of the Flash Wolves when it comes to controlling the river or the Baron pit, because the river is a larger area and it necessitates having a ward in the Baron pit in particular. You need to have an extra pink.
They have 3 down at the moment. He's being lazy.
Yeah, that one's
he's probably being
Karma's,
lazy.
and the top one's Lucian's.
Lucian had one? Oh boy.
Yeah, Flash Wolves are kind of going all in on making sure the Baron's clear, and it's pretty obvious that that's what you want to dance for 33 minutes in. Let's talk about other objectives too, because Flash Wolves have been controlling the Dragons a lot better than IMay, with the exception of that very early Mountain Drake.
The hell?
How much does this play into Karza's ability to take this a little faster? Obviously, it's mountain for mountain, but they have a little bit of extra mobility as well.
There's a possibility that they can fast play the map. I think both teams are now going to be pretty good at taking the Baron considering that. I don't think it's going to impact anything too greatly. It might just be a mindset shift that they have 3-1 in Drakes and they feel like they have more control and tempo of the map. They do have a gold lead, and so they should actually be able to close out near the Baron area. It just comes down to execution above all else. I think the mindset shift, though, is definitely an evident feature.
Yeah, definitely plays a lot into if a team's willing to pull the trigger as they clear another ward out. So going back to the other side too, let's talk Zac again, because we have another Twitter question about this, and this is somebody I think you guys know well. Riot Pulse is asking, what uncommon gank pass can Zac utilize with Elastic Slingshot?
Oh, he's the only one who can go from Raptor Pit to the middle of mid lane, unless you're like playing Nocturne or Pantheon or something. But like he's the one who could do it very consistently on a short cooldown, and that's why it's like repeated ganks, like Rusty was talking about. If you do that and the mid laner flashes, just walk back to your Raptor camp and do it again. Like a lot of the times they'll still actually hang out there, or walk to their Raptors and do it from there.
So if any of you guys start spectating Pulse at home, you'll probably start seeing him play Zac quite a lot now. If I know anything about him.
The thing is, Zac's one of the only champions where you can gank like a Nocturne without having to use an ultimate. So you don't have to expend that. It's actually just your slingshot from the E. And that's what actually creates this unique pathing and patterns about him. Any situation where it's longer than you'd expect, he can suddenly be there.
And there we go.
Like
right
that.
Sword Art.
Like,
oh man, that's going bowling. Goodbye, Sword Art.
Dunzo
Avoidless
right
goes
there.
bouncing. That might open them up to clear this vision out pretty easily.
yeah, it's stuff you don't expect. You always, and the range of his Elastic Slingshot is absolutely bonkers. It's like, I want to say it's almost 2,200 or something along those lines. It's pretty damn long. We could just look it up really quickly because it's actually absurd. But yes.
Don't tell everybody the magic siren.
Hey.
Hey,
Just-
get back on Zac.
Yeah. Anyway, 2,200 sounds really long to me, but I think that's right. It's around that area. What is it?
Yeah, again, it's got that unique
no.
pathing behind the range
Okay,
that
so
it provides.
yeah, it's 1,800 with a 300 radius. So it's 2,100 units at the maximum.
That's
the
pretty
very
far.
maximum. So yeah, it's ridiculous. That's why people max it first. And you can do routes like talk about more. Like this area right here that we're looking at, that tri-brush, you go up a little bit, right here, there, you can gank from there like only Rek'Sai's can, and go over that wall and hit a top laner. So if you can get behind them, like this is the blue side of the map, but if you're the red jungler and you get here, you can come from behind the enemy top laner, and they're actually screwed at that point most of the time. They'll have to blow a summoner spell. It's very hard to get past you, and Zac is really, really crazy in that regard.
Which is cool, because off the top of my head, there's only 3 champions I can think of that can do ganks like that, and the other one is Rek'Sai, and there's a Shaco in there, which you'll never see. And
Yeah.
Rek'Sai can do the exact same thing in the exact same spot, which provides a unique utility. However, Raptor camps and Wolf pits and areas like Blue Buff are the unique things that the Zac provides, where a Rek'Sai will not.
Yeah, and the big thing with all these is they'll still have their CC left. right? Like a Jarvan can kind of do that gank, not the same thickness of a wall though, but he doesn't have CC when he gets there. He has to use the ultimate. He's using his EQ to gap close. And that's why things like the Zac and like everybody else have actually been so good with that. And Zac's is such a long range, it doesn't matter that his CC is tied to it, and his ultimate's really damn good on top of that.
All right, we'll see if he is going to be able to make use of it here. He's got this one off cooldown. Flashwolves has started the Baron. He's going to jump in.
Oh, he's going to go
he's
for
going right in. Let's bounce it up. And they've got Jin Zhao. Baron is just going to regen here. IMay really wanted this fight, but they didn't have quite enough damage, and Road's gone down.
Yeah, MMD was kind of keeping the back line interested, and Avoidless is going to get out of that, and that's actually very good. You keep your jungler alive, so that steal is still on the table.
Yeah, the saving grace here from IMay was that they had to do that, and only one of them went down, their support. But
ooh, they're all in the back of the pit. So when you're in the back of the pit, Baron actually stuns you. He does AoE and stuns you. The spikes are really brutal, and Flashwolves may have actually messed up.
yeah, those guys are in a lot of trouble.
This is very messy, that's for sure.
So the way Baron works, in mechanics-wise, is if more people are behind the Baron than in front of him, he spikes. And it has a very small stun on it, and it'll interrupt things like channels, and it'll pop you up.
Kind of ruin your day.
Yeah, and you take so much damage. And the thing is everybody takes the damage behind him. It's not just a one auto attack like the Baron does on the person who's closest. It hits everybody behind him. So do not stand in the back of the pit unless you know that you can take it.
I think this was a pretty cool trade between both of these teams overall. The end result is that nothing actually happens, and that's a surprise because we never actually saw a smite battle break out between either of them.
He jumped in at about like 1900, and there's like a world where you'd say, all right, use your last Jin bullet on Baron, and I'll actually smite at the same time. But it didn't come to that, and it's just the Baron dance right now. This is still anybody's game, honestly.
It feels like Flashwolves are trying to test out to see if, you know, IMay can really counter them on this. They've famously said they don't think the communication, you know, issues that they have allow them to really pull off complex moves, but that seems to not be the case right here. They've pushed them off yet again.
Oh.
And now they've separated MMD. Road might go down, though.
Yeah, Road, Sword Art, all very low right now. Ooh, the Deathfire Touch, Deathfire Touch, Deathfire Touch.
Oh, boy.
Okay.
He's got a shield.
He's got a shield.
Still, they push them right off the Baron, and Flashwolves, their fixation is incredibly obvious at this point.
But that's fair. That's the big objective that they want to close the game out in terms of priority between Elder Dragon and Baron. You always want the Baron. It helps you even get the Elder Dragon afterwards as the preceding objective. However, we've highlighted the composition that IMay have got. When the Zac goes in,
Karsa's done.
Yep, you're bouncing around. Karsa, he flashes in, tried to get the knockup, but he's the one who gets knocked up himself.
That was so good.
Jin Zhao with the kill, and they even caught up at L. I mean, this is definitely an IMay fight right now. Maple's gone golden, but he's going down.
That was, really unfortunate. Maple just did a golden puddle instead of actually playing the Vladimir properly.
Yeah, IMay is really good there. That gank from Avoidless to actually hit Karsa, one of Rek'Sai's biggest weaknesses, and it's something that, like, when I was in playtesting, a lot of people who played her for the first time or even like the 10th time were like, I feel useless late game. All her pattern is flash knock-up late game. That's all she really has to contribute to a team fight because her damage falls off. She actually spikes very early on in the game, and so it's like, okay, the justification for her crazy early game is that she's an interruptible move block, she doesn't have much damage late game, and now she has less tankiness than before, and he gets him right in the E, interrupts it, knocks him back, and this fight is actually really incredible because IMay, they actually exploited Flashwolves sticking around. They stuck around to try and get that the Baron pit control again, and Amazing J had already backed. He has no teleport. He backed for full HP, so even if you lose somebody here, like Amazing J shows up 100% HP, ready to clean up this fight.
So after like 3 attempts that Flashwolves put on this Baron, and to then give it up because IMay kind of gamed them there, I mean, what does that do to your mindset? Especially put yourself in the shoes of Karsa, if already knowing that frustration that your late game Rek'Sai is only going to be able to do so much.
I mean, Karsa mechanically misplayed even in that last fight. They were pressured out endlessly. They should have got the Baron the first time they went for it. The second one was more difficult. The third one, it goes completely awry and goes to the opposite team. Karsa, I'm not going to say it's affecting his mentality too greatly, but this has gone from a position where they're ahead to they're now even and potentially behind because the Baron gives you further objectives, and it does make you play a lot more defensively and respect the opposition. And when you look at the draft again, don't play defensively against the Varus and Jin. You engage on them or you lose.
Yeah, and it's crazy that the poke composition, I see like right there, they're just make sure that you charge up the slingshot. It actually has reduced cooldown if you interrupt it yourself and don't cast it. And now it's back up again. It's very, very fast to actually come back off the cooldown. So he's going to do that until he finds an opportunity in Maple.
that.
Ooh, that's a Vladimir out of position too.
Yeah, Karza can't really do much here. You can see the difference in how tanky Avoidless is.
Meganar, though?
Meganar does come in. Karza does get knocked to one side, but MMD is just saying, that's okay, tag me right in. It's actually a very messy fight here. But Avoidless, look at how much attention he's demanding by pushing them away.
Yeah, these champions are all going to last a very long time unless you get on the 80 carries, or I guess Athena as well. Just because you're stacking so much of the same resistance if you're Flash Wolves, you're just stacking all of this armor. And on the opposite side, for IMay, like you have Guardian Angels. Like this is going to be a very long last team fight when it happens.
So, if you're Karza right now, is there anything you can really build to try and mitigate this? You talked about how his tankiness just kind of has a limit that Avoidless doesn't really have. Like, what can he do?
I think he did the right things in terms of itemization. As you said before, Zaryan goes for the armor instead of getting any magic resistance. There is a surprisingly large amount of magic resistance when you look at Death by a Touch champions as well. As the fact that they've got the Zac, the Echo, and the Alistar with Ignite. I think he needs some kind of magic resistance.
Yeah, he just TP'd to the top side right now, so MMD is on the opposite side. And yeah, I would say like a GA would be what I would get last item here if I was Karsa. And yeah, they're on Athena right now. If they can actually kill Athena here, it's really good. And MMD is going to do that. So yeah, this might be Flash Wolves' fight.
They did get Amazing J knocked up against the wall, but IMay aren't giving up on this. There's low health bars across the board. Avoidless, though, he could go down. He's had to flash. So yeah, Flash Wolves actually come up with something there, and Maple now leading the charge and might even pick off Amazing J.
Yeah, he's got Rylai's, I believe.
Not a chance.
Yeah,
okay, never mind.
It's out of there.
Echo, he's fine.
Ooh,
Still not a chance.
Nope.
In fact,
Call. Wait a minute.
He wants the GA. He'd get it too if it's not
Maple's
blocked
there.
for.
I mean, you can't fool because then it just goes right over.
I mean, that's the thing with Echo. Can you catch him?
No.
3 stacks on a passive, he runs away. That was a big mistake from IMay across the board, mostly Athena. There's nothing the Zac can do. Once again, both of these junglers are playing sacrificial lambs for their teams when you watch how they're playing these team fights. Karsa doesn't have as much utility as the rest of his team besides the knock-up, so he's doing it. If his team loses the fight, then he dies because he has to be next to them to knock them up.
And it's just a really complicated situation to be in if you're IMay. Like we talked about how they're mixed languages. If you have a Gnar TPing behind you and you're Athena, like somebody has to guard your top side and your bottom side, or else you get engaged on from one of those angles. Either the Gnar is just going to hit you if he wants to hit you, or the Rek'Sai is going to come in. So it's really difficult to be like, hey, Alistar, Road, you stop Gnar, you Avoidless, stop the whole rest of the team. Like, it's very hard to allocate resources that quickly, and the players just kind of have to know what they need to do in that situation. Or else it just becomes chaos like it did where Athena had everybody dogpiling on him.
And he flashed into the wall. As
yeah, that was like
that's the coup de grace.
The icing on the cake there for that play.
All right, so all the same, they only lose one on the side of IMay, and now Flash Wolves, they're going to try to go on the offensive. And now that the Baron's gone, maybe they'll have a chance to be able to get something done, but it has to be frustrating to not be able to pick up the objective you were gunning for, and instead they ping on towards this Elder Dragon. Who do you think has the edge in taking this one out just in a straight-up 5v5?
Well, I feel like it's Flash Wolves now because they have the Vladimir, but it really depends on how you get in there.
They got the positioning too. I mean, you've got Amazing J hasn't started to teleport just yet. Yeah, there we go.
There you go. But all being clumped up like this for an Alistar, a Zac, and an Echo, like you could get comboed in stuns pretty hard.
They were just trying to force Amazing J's teleport, so now he's here. This is more of a dance than an actual team fight, but potentially...
Why is the Vladimir stopping the Zac? That's not going to help him at all.
Yeah, last time I saw Dance the Dragons, guys, it did not turn out very well. A lot of blood was spent, and it looks like that's going to be the case again. Maple and MMD really low. Uh-oh, curtain call.
Ooh, MMD just barely gets out of there.
Amazing J's pretty low. He had to flash that.
This is such an awkward...
This is just like the Baron dance we saw before the third attempt.
Yeah, but it's a really messy dance. That's the problem. So again, IMay are just looking to poke, but Flash Wolves are forcing, and the back and forth from these guys, trusting in their team's smite, I suppose, and getting the Drake really low to force IMay to come in. But they're not looking to have a smite off between Avoidless and Karsa. They're engaging instead.
This is again like Avoidless on the backside. Oh, how did he get there?
Oh, he's gonna go right in and steal it. Wow.
Oh my God.
Oh man, he just swung in. He really is Batman
with an Elder Dragon as well. That guy's a hero.
Yeah, and now he's got the double kill.
Oh. And when they're stacking,
I think that's the game.
When they're stacking so much armor, and now you have even just that little bit of true damage, like that goes a long way. We got to see that again because how did he get there? I want to see how he got there and he wasn't spotted, and that's just that that vision coverage, and that disrespect. Because 100%, you can stop him from getting in if your Gnar is on him, if your Gnar is chasing him, but MMD didn't back, and they went for the fast play, and that's been Flashwolf's, honestly, their Achilles heel this game is that they're shooting themselves in the foot.
It's pretty absurd to consider that a smite steal is potentially the differentiating factor, but his team composition relies so heavily on having those objective advantages. So getting the Elder Dragon buff, one of the few comps that will benefit a lot from that, because you can see how much damage they're doing. They had waves prepped. Like, this is a pretty big deal, and it's all because Avoidless is the catalyst to that.
Yeah, he did a damn good job on that too. He was a level up as well, so don't know if that actually even played a factor in it. It probably didn't, but just that smite difference in terms of how much damage it does would be really interesting.
So 47 minutes in, and it all comes down to Secret Agent Avoidless. IMay coming up with the victory there, and a really big one. Nice to see this Zach making a big splash.